Food waste and loss around the world has reached epidemic proportions. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization estimates that a third of global food production is either wasted or lost, an enormous drain on natural resources and the environment. To address the problem, Susanna Owiyo, a UNEP National Goodwill Ambassador in Kenya, has started an initiative known as Soko Bila Waste. Every little thing counts, aimed at sensitizing farmers, vendors and consumers about the importance of reducing food waste across the distribution chain.
Our big message here is to have people understand, particularly from the buying and the selling community, of the importance of food wastage and the things that they can do to minimize the amount of food loss.
The initiative supports UNEP's global food waste campaign, Think, Eat, Save, Reduce Your Footprint. On this year's World Environment Day, Soko Bila Waste invited prominent Kenyan politicians and entertainment and media personalities to Nairobi's Marikiti Wholesale Market for a day of vending and cleanup exercises. Participants traded places with vendors as a way of educating both sellers and consumers how to avoid wasting food, reducing people's food-related environmental impact, and improving food security.
Oftentimes when we go to food, we think about eating first, but actually we need to think what is going on behind the production of the food, the selling of the food, and once we understand that, we can make some choices that are a little bit wiser. And Marikiti here is really the best opportunity that we can have in Nairobi because it's the biggest market. So many people, so much opportunity.
Fresh produce that remain unsold at the end of the market day is often thrown away or left to rot, clogging landfills and attracting vermin. Wasting food has a dramatic impact on hunger and poverty, nutrition, income generation, and economic growth across the globe. Meanwhile, the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, says that financing climate change adaptation for smallholder farmers in the developing world is critical. These rural farmers provide up to 80% of the food in developing countries, feeding more than a third of humanity. And as the global population grows, so will the pressure on natural resources. Elwin Granger-Jones, director of IFAD's Environment and Climate Change Division, says investments in these farmers can ensure that they become custodians of natural resources and carbon emissions.
Through their activities, they hold the key to a significant amount of future emissions, which will depend on how they manage that land, whether the carbon is kept in the soil or whether it's released from the soil through unsustainable farming practices and uncontrolled deforestation. So we can't forget these people.
The developing world may rely on these farmers to grow their food, but they are the ones hit hardest by weather and environmental changes, with little ability to adapt to new conditions. They are located in some of the world's most ecologically and climatically vulnerable areas, and most of them rely on weather-dependent natural resources. For example, about 95% of African agriculture depends on rainfall for its water needs. These farmers are not only affected by climate change, but their unsustainable farming practices also cause further environmental degradation. For example, 70% of fisheries are in danger of collapse from overfishing. Fish seller Rose Mensah from Benin has witnessed these changes.
Before there was a lot of money to be made in fish, but now the fishermen come back with small fish or none at all.
But IFAD says there is no need for a trade-off between feeding people and protecting the environment. In fact, rural smallholder farmers must be recognized as part of the climate change solution. For example, on the slopes of Mount Kenya, excessive logging and unsustainable farming practices reduced forest cover by more than 5,000 hectares, which affected the water flow in the rivers and caused soil erosion. But now, farmers are part of a project to plant and protect trees in the water catchment areas, and they have been made responsible for protecting the area's water resources. Not only is the environment healthier, but the farmers now have reliable access to water. The project's River Basin Management Officer, Nestry Ndichu, is impressed with the outcome.
The vegetation cover has improved. The farmers have changed their way of farming, and as well as the pollution in the rivers has lessened, and with the volumes of the water in the rivers have improved.
IFAD is also aiming to help 8 million rural people prepare for climate change impacts through its Adaptation for Smallholder Agricultural Program, ASAP, launched in October 2012. To date, about $340 million has been pledged and committed to ASAP from the governments of the UK, Canada, Belgium, among others. It is now the largest global fund dedicated to assisting smallholder farmers to adapt to the shocks of climate change, enabling them to continue to feed the world's growing population.